Thank you. Catch me if you can statement. I'll be presenting on the North Stawell project this afternoon. So here we are. What we're actually looking for is repeats of the existing Stawell deposit at Stawell in the Stawell zone. So it's a 5.5 million ounce deposit near surface, and there are some geological differences that I'll dwell on just a little bit to keep the geology going. There's a thin layer of cover from 6 kilometres north of Stawell, and that preserves shallow potential for gold. Most of our holes are under 300 metres when we drill them. And we have more recently stumbled across the fact that the mineralisation is bimodal. There's a large low-grade section and a large enough, much higher grade, sort of bonanza grade section to the deposit. We've got a small resource to prove that the theory that we're exploring against is correct, and we were spun out of Stawell Gold Mines in 2020, so we've had access to some incredible data, and we still have good communications with that team. We've also got a team with deep Victorian experience, and they look a little bit like this. So three of us on the board, and Tony is the CFO. We've worked on 3 of the Victorian mines with decades of combined experience in Victoria, from exploration through actually bringing mines back into production. The challenge, if you look at that little matrix there, the challenge there is the market cap, is the available capital, and the opportunity is the market cap and share price. We do have a vast amount of data collected over 30, 40 years, and putting a bit of a ruler across it for approximate value just for the drilling comes out at about $27 million worth of drilling in today's value. So we do have to dwell very briefly on the Stawell mine. That's what it looks like. Excuse the cartoonish figure, but it does get a little complicated at times. So Stawell's still operating. It's privately held. It's about 6k south of where our tenements are on the same trend. It's produced 5.3 million ounces, at 2.6 of that in the modern era. And last time I checked, it's hard to get references, but the last time I checked, the publicly available data says about 800,000 ounces of defensible mineral resource. So what's happened to Stawell? It is different. Before the gold event happened that is ubiquitous in Australia, in Victoria, sorry, there's a bunch of rocks called basalts faulted into position vertically, not flat, but vertically. And these basalts refuse to be bent by the gold event that follows after. What that does is it focuses the gold in the Stawell zone onto the margins of the basalt. So if you can find the basalts, you've found the high potential areas for gold mineralisation. And the really nice thing about basalts is they respond to geophysics compared to the sediments that the rest of the geology comprises. So we see 2 types of mineralisation. I mentioned this before. Oops, wrong thing, sorry. No laser. There's the Stawell type lower grade mineralisation, and it hugs, it's the red stuff on that diagram, it hugs the margins of the basalts where the structures wrap around it. Then there's a much higher grade system that sits in the roof above the basalts. We're talking historically sort of 25 to 30 grams over large volumes, large ounce counts. So we explore for both these styles of mineralisation, and it gives us a bit of an opportunity to look for different styles of deposit. There's also this cover I talked about and the fact that the rocks are geophysically responsive. So here's, in blue is all the basalts that we're aware of. The light blue are the ones that we've actually drill tested, not always at a super high density, but drill tested. The green ones are where we've proven that there's a basalt at depth. So that's part of the key facet of the mineral system. Yellow basalts is where we've found anomalous gold in our drilling results, and the orange ones are where we see a lot higher grade gold, more encouragement. The high grade systems look like that, mainly in the south of the belt, and they're anything between 5 and 80 grams per tonne. And then there's a couple of mineral resources. So when the whole thing's put together, we've got an awful lot of potential prospects. So we work hard to narrow that down. So There's the resource at 87,000 ounces. We've got over 150 kilometres of historic drilling, and we've put 700 holes, or over 700 holes into it in the last couple of years. We have a fairly robust pipeline that needs constant refining to focus our efforts, and that includes over 60 kilometres of basalt. And the basalt margins and above the basalts is the key exploration environment in this part of the world. Also, because that dashed line on the image, 85% of our ground is north of that line, and that line is where the cover starts. And cover is a thin veneer of unmineralised sediments that mask everything beneath it, and the old timers couldn't see through it. So shallow mineralisation is preserved where the cover is. They found everything else. Just in case lunch has got you, there's some blue light to wake you up a little bit, but that's actually the Murray Basin looking north from the Stawell gold mine. The next rock that sticks out of the ground is just south of Broken Hill. This is important. This is the geophysics. Our deposit type responds to geophysics. So if we just focus on a few of these, that's magnetics. That was flown by the government 20 years ago. Very useful initially, but this is the gravity data. Essentially anything read in that image is interpreted as a basalt unit. So over 60 kilometres of it, and we've drilled at least 6 of them and brought them in line as proven basalt hosts. That's an incredible tool for exploring through cover. We've also done some fancy geophysical work to understand the shapes of the basalts, and the reason that's important is when we apply the Stawell gold model to those basalts with numerical modelling, with work done with CSIRO, we can pick the most likely parts of the system to contain gold, which means we go from 60 kilometres to maybe 5 kilometres of prospective or most prospective strike. It doesn't have to contain gold, it's just the most likely. So we've made a series of choices. We've focused on 2 things. One is the mineral resource at Wildwood, because it's an existing resource, it's valuable to us, and there's an awful lot of data in it from surface under about 5 metres of cover with a high-grade chute that runs down the middle of it, but overall it's a lower-grade resource. And then we've also focused on a place called Darlington from the exploration space, because everything we've done says it has all the ingredients to give us another Stawell-type system, and we'll look at both of those. So this is the Darlington Caledonia trend, that sort of reddy bit in the middle of the screen where it says Darlington Caledonia trend. Should have picked that. And down to the south, 6K to the south, is the Stawell gold mine. You can see the Mariners lodes in red and the Stawell lodes, or the basalt lodes, in green. So we see, at depth, we see the basalts, and a lot of similar structures to suggest that this is something similar. Magnetics data suggests that the basalt at Stawell continues undercover up to where we are, and it's actually the same basalt, but just with some additional mineralisation. Now, I appreciate this is a busy slide, but bear with me. There's an old Darlington mine that sits where it says Darlington Mine, just underneath the logo. So it produced, let's call it 2,500 ounces at 28 grams or 18 grams between friends. So we've drilled under that, and at depth, at about 300 metres, it's the first ever intercept in this part of the world where we've struck the basalt. Now, unfortunately, it was faulted off, so there was a null result with respect to Stawell-type mineralisation, the basalt margin mineralisation that we're looking for. But we did intercept very high grade, or for Stawell, very high grade geology with a bit of visible gold through it. That was announced this time last year. And that sent us back to the books, and we started looking at that and realised that there's this Mariners lodes, the lodes that sit up above the basalt, historically they were mined at 28 to 30 grams per tonne, and they pulled about up to 950,000 ounces, depending on whose data you use, from that system. It's the host, the geology, the structure, everything that we see at Darlington looks like how the data for the Mariners lodes reads at Stawell. So that's a high-grade ore lens that sits above the basalt. At depth, it intersects with the basalt, and that's where the lower-grade Stawell-type mineralisation takes over. So when the mine opened in the 1850s, they mined the Mariners Lodes for 4 years and took out 1 million ounces, and then got into the system at depth and have been there ever since and taken out another 4 and a bit million ounces. So it's a big system, it's an attractive target, and we think we can see rocks that look very similar to it at Darlington. So we've had some good results at Darlington that are material to the rest of the region. Our recent IP work is the rainbow-coloured lines on that map to the left. They've picked up a cracking chargeability anomaly 300 metres south of where we initially drilled it. So the Darlington West was a totally theoretical target based off geophysics and numerical modelling. We wildcat drilled it, I guess, just over a year ago, and immediately drilled into a basalt with 0.5 metre at 6 grams on the margin. Couldn't be happier. That's the best technical result we could hope for from a hole like that. We've drilled it again since and hit more mineralisation, not quite as good, but that IP anomaly gives us a lot of hope that there's a bigger system there. Diamond drilling, we've drilled into the higher grade zones above it. We've been chasing that and just yesterday released a new result, 0.4 at 17, but it's still in the same system, so our intention is to chase that along. And the numerical modelling is giving us some compelling targets in the region. That's the Mariners Lodes, very different to everything else we see at Stawell, and in some instances it has a bit more grade. Now, here's Wildwood. So it's a small resource. The basalt that mineralisation wraps around is about the same length as the basalt at Stawell. We have effectively drilled to about 150 metres, and everything else beneath that gets a bit scatty. Now there's a problem, not a problem, there's something we need to resolve at Wildwood, which is the gold is hosted in embayments in the basalt. So it's really volumetrically restricted. So to break out from that, we have to do something different, which to us means try and find mineralisation on the flanks of the basalt where we can expand it a lot faster with less drilling. It's a modest resource, but we have migrated half of it to indicated in the last couple of years, which just means it's a much higher confidence around the resource. The mineralisation starts at about 5 metres depth. It's divided into those three sub-regions, Trinity, Clontarf and Maslin, and particularly Maslin is open at depth, but it's narrow, it's low grade, so we haven't pursued that any deeper just yet. There are more pressing targets, but open at depth and only shallow tested. So if we look at Wildwood as an exploration target, it looks a little bit different. So some of those drill results you can see there, they are actually, just please note, they are part of the mineral resource. They're already factored in. But you can see that there's some pretty robust grades there. We've got another 2 kilometres of basalt to the south that's poorly tested, and a parallel basalt out to the east, the Wildwood East project, which is almost totally untouched. All of those techniques that are working at Darlington, we can apply here, the IP, some of the geochemistry, and hopefully accelerate some of those targets. So this is what we've got in front of us. Because of the work we've done to date, we can loop that information back into what we're doing and look at some of those other targets that I put up on the screen early on. So Darlington, Wildwood resource step-outs, the Wildwood East project, a place called Lubeck, Tilp and Caledonia that we haven't touched on. They all have drill potential. IP, which comes in at about the same cost as about 5 to 15 metres of drilling, covers large areas quickly. We have plans to apply that. And we do have more of these geophysics-only targets produced with the CSIRO numerical modelling that will give us an opportunity to chase down some additional targets. And we've also announced that we're on aware of commercial opportunities, and we'll pursue that. So we've got a good pipeline. We've got 445 square kilometres of tenements. We've maintained our community presence, possibly looking at diversification, and we sit within 5K of the Stawell, 6K of the Stawell mine. We've got a good board with good Victorian experience. We're looking exclusively for Victorian gold. We've got an exploration model that allows geophysics to play a heavy role. We've got demonstrated exploration success with significant gold potential in the resource and some of the drill results, and a small resource to de-risk the market cap position and some of the expenditure. Thank you.
Thanks, Phil.